Welcome to the Real Men Group podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Gray, and as always, I'm so happy to be here. Subscribers, y'all know the vibe. How are you healing? Those that know me know that I'm a diehard Knicks fan. See, let me just move this over so y'all can see. Your vibe, y'all know the vibe. We're looking great on the hardwood. Don't hate on my team. Manifestation. Just like this would be the fastest growing podcast on the internet, the fastest growing podcast on YouTube, the most watched podcast on the internet. My Knicks is going to the championships. Manifestation. I am manifesting greatness, just like you should. So on this channel, we talk about everything. We laugh, we joke. As of lately, I've been doing a lot of reaction videos, and thank you guys for supporting and liking and sharing some of these reaction videos. But we're going to talk about something that's a little bit more serious, and that's mental health. And that's something that we need to take extremely serious, right? There's so many levels, there's so many sections, and there's so many chapters within the mental health world. But today we're going to talk about ADHD. So when you hear the word ADHD or the letters ADHD, what's the first type of people you think about? Children, right? Kids. Well, you're not alone. I was the same way. So when I heard it, I was like, well, kids have ADHD. But what you fail to realize that there are many adults that are suffering from ADHD, just like children. So check this out. Children would eventually become adults. So there's a lot of children that are now adults that have been battling with ADHD, but didn't know that ADHD existed, or our parents didn't even know that ADHD existed. So you don't want to miss this episode. I will be outlining some of the signs of ADHD in adults that you may not be paying attention to. But what's ADHD? Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So it's a person that has it's a difference in brain development, brain activity that affects the attention, the ability to sit still, and self-control. Self-control is a big one in adulthood. Do you agree? Welcome to my TED Talk. But speaking of TED Talks, came across this episode on this subject matter, and she raised some pretty good points to speak on today. So what does an adult with ADHD look like? Freddy Krueger, the Tooth Fairy. Nah, I'm kidding, but it looked just like us. It just like you. It looks like me. Successful, driven, motivated, good looking, but not as good looking as me. But you know what I'm saying, all that good stuff. But we all have some form of a chemical imbalance in here, in the engine. And it doesn't make us crazy at all. But just like a fingerprint, fingerprints are very unique. There's no one fingerprint exactly like the one that you have. But that's what makes us dope. That's what makes us dope as fuck. Aren't you dope? You dope, right? I mean, you are just looking at the Real Men Group podcast. You are subscribed to one of the fastest growing podcasters on the internet. So of course you're going to be dope as fuck. But I'm going to name a few people. Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Adam Levine, Michael Jordan, Justin Timberlake, Solange Knowles, Emma Watson, Jim Carrey, Bill Gates, and one of my favorite R&B singers, SZA. What do they all have in common besides being a celebrity? They all have ADHD. So ADHD is not a form of a mental illness where you're not able to produce, be productive, become successful. But what I do love and acknowledge is the fact that all these celebrities were very vocal about having ADHD. And it's something that I will always respect. The fact that one, they were able to acknowledge that it was something wrong. And two, they are spreading the word about ADHD. So ADHD was first diagnosed in the 1900s. And it was very controversial because it wasn't enough data to support these claims. But as time went on, technology advanced, more data and trends, it made it less controversial to make more concrete. Are you the type of person that lets your mail pile up? Like you don't even go to the mailbox, you just let it pile up. Then when you finally go to the mailbox, the mail is falling out. It's all over the place. You take it, you put it on the table, and you don't even worry about it. until something goes wrong. Now you're going through the mail and you're trying to find, like, why did it go wrong? You look at that mail that was sent to you 2 weeks ago. Now you're trying to figure it out. These are one of the things that was highlighted in this TED Talk, that these are one of the many indications that you could potentially be suffering from ADHD as an adult. So now we all are guilty. I'm guilty of that. I mean, as a matter of fact, I got to go through my mail and see what's there. But these are simple warning signs. You see how simple it is? And these are things that we are guilty of, right? Do you have a scattered brain where your brain is just constantly all over the place? You have so many different ideas. You want to do this as a career. You want to do this as a podcast. You want to have all these different ideas in your mind, and your brain is scattered, and it's really hard for you to focus on one thing. Simple. Telltale signs, right? Do you have a problem with time management? Are you always racing against the clock? You are the one that's always late for everything. You are late for work. You have poor time management. These are some of the things that are indications that as an adult, you could be suffering from ADHD. So according to the CDC, ADHD is genetics. It could be genetically transferred from parents to children. I bet you didn't know that. Like, it could run in your family. Like, your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather could have suffered from ADHD, which means they gave it to your grandfather, your uncle, your sister, your brother, your mother, whoever it is, and it's being passed down. But if you don't tend to it, if you don't, you gotta be able to identify that it does exist. And once it does exist, you got to get the proper treatment. But just like you, I grew up where behavior or lack of attention in the school system just puts you in special education. See, I grew up in the inner city, shout out to Brooklyn, and special education was pretty big in my school. And it was all the bad kids, quote unquote. All the bad kids went to special education. Do y'all remember the small classes? But maybe what should have been done back then was they should have been tested, and maybe they would have got the right help, and maybe they could have overcame some of these obstacles a lot sooner versus growing up in the special education and growing up into adulthood suffering from ADHD, right? So maybe if they would have did the right thing. So today, what I have gathered is that a lot of the kids are being tested for ADHD in the womb. So before, I believe you couldn't test for ADHD until the kid was 4 years old, but now they're starting to test a lot sooner. But where I'm from, mental illness wasn't spoke about. No one ever said to me or around me that they suffer from mental illness or they needed help, but they knew that something was off. So being able, so the fact that this can be passed down from parents to children, if no one is taking the proper steps and going to get help, it's just going to continue on rolling over and over and over into generations. So today, we are going to learn about ADHD. We are going to take the proper steps if we are able to identify that ADHD exists in ourselves and also in our children. Have you noticed in recent years there has been like an influx of babies being born with disabilities? You got more autistic children being born. You got kids being diagnosed with ADHD. So it has been showing its face more recently, and the reason why is because the medical field and also in some of these schools, they are more trained and educated on identifying when some of these signs are being shown. But researchers also show that ADHD could sometimes be mistaken for autism. It's very hard for them to tell the difference between the two. So you can have a child or even yourself could be diagnosed with autism, but it's really ADHD. So you really have to get the right help and speak to the right specialist in order for you to get the help that you really need. But scientists have suspected that autism and ADHD actually share the same the same genetic roots. But it's one thing is really sad when mental health only gain attention when your favorite celebrity is having a breakdown, like Kanye West, and as of late, Wendy Williams, or just anybody who's on the other side of the camera is having a breakdown, that's not looking the same way that they used to, dressing the same way, or saying some crazy things on camera. Oh, that person is crazy, but he's a genius. She's crazy, but she's very talented. And what do? You share, you like, you comment, and then you on to the next. But how many people looked at some of these celebrities and said, wait, hold on, there might be something here. Let me look into it. Let me look at my loved ones and see what I can do to help them, when you are able to acknowledge the fact that they are going through some form of a mental illness. But instead, we just say these people are crazy, but she's a genius. These people is crazy, but he's a genius. You know, you take Kanye West, for example. Everybody always say that Kanye West is crazy. Kanye West just need to get some help. He need to speak openly with a licensed, certified therapist. And for the record, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just someone that understands the importance of research. And here on the Real Men Group is my job to share this information, because you can use this. Maybe you can use it in your life. You can use it raising your children. Hopefully you're able to take something away from this. So mental illness, it doesn't mean that you're going crazy. It doesn't mean that you are this person walking around with purple, green paint all over their face and people's going to look at you crazy. No, it's something that's in the air that only you are able to get the proper help that you need. So let's get right into some of the signs and symptoms associated with ADHD in adults. So number one is carelessness and lack of attention to detail. Not being able to focus, to wrap your mind around what the task is at hand. And carelessness, where are my keys? Where's my wallet? I can't find this. You don't know where you parked your car. Your mind is just so scattered, it's all over the place. So number two, continually starting new tasks before finish old ones. I suffer from that. Being a content creator, you're in the moment, you're out the moment. I'm already looking for the next thing to talk about while I'm talking about something today. And I'm pretty sure that you guys have experienced that too. So number three, poor organizational skills. Not being able to keep things organized. Not being able to know where things are. So number three is poor organizational skills. Number four, the inability to focus and prioritize. What's important? What's important today? Need my attention. Can it wait till later? So the inability to focus or prioritize. So number five, I think. Okay, continuously losing or misplacing things. As I mentioned, was my keys, was my wallet. Number six, forgetfulness. What did I say? I can't remember. Yeah, one of those moments. Or even going to the grocery store, knowing that you're going for bread and eggs. And then you do all this grocery shopping. You got a cart full of groceries. $300 later, you get home and you realize you didn't get the bread, and you didn't get the milk, and you didn't get the eggs, right? So these are some of the things that, is warning and symptoms of adults dealing with ADHD, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Relentlessness, right? And edginess. We all suffer from that, being on the edge of everything, and I got to get it done. I don't want to get it done, right? Number 9, difficulty keeping quiet and speaking out of turn, like cutting people off. And I always say, man, when you're having a conversation, you got to be able to listen to respond. So difficulty keeping quiet and speaking out of turn. So blurring out responses and often interrupting others. Next one is mood swings, irritability, and quick temper. How many people has a quick temper? Do you have a quick temper? Just leave it in the comment section. Next one is the inability to deal with stress. Not knowing how to deal with stress. Yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot, man. I would say, we all have some form of stress that we are dealing with in our lives. And that can play a major part in of the not being able to cope with dealing with stress. So next one is extreme impatience. Can't wait for nothing. You want everything now. You want instant gratification. I suffer from that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys suffer from that. Like, we want everything now. We want to win big. We want the biggest bag. We want the greatest job. So extreme impatience, I can see why that's there. So the next one is taking risks and activities with little or no regard to personal safety of yourself and others. Like, example, like driving recklessly on the highway or skydiving. It's fun. I did that. So maybe, well, anyway, these are some of the things that that scientists actually associated with ADHD in adults. So hopefully you guys learned something from this episode. Take something back. Each one teach one. Share with your significant other. Maybe you guys are having issues with your children and not understanding why they aren't listening or following direction. Maybe this is a good episode for you, and hopefully you learn something. As always, I'm Mr. Gray from the Real Man Group Podcast, and as always, I'm so happy to be here. Click that subscribe button. Click that like button. It's going to help us. It's going to help me. It's going to motivate me to put out more content. And as always, to the next one.